Y'all breaking New Bergen or the same neg I've heard now 3 times?
Um, little bit of different stuff, yeah.
Okay.
3. Okay. One-minute warning for debaters.
What do you mean the pro team spreads? I don't understand.
For the AF, I think the panel would prefer it if y'all like didn't go ridiculously fast in this round.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
get that. Sorry. I know that in past rounds we were a little bit too fast. Sorry.
Yeah, don't worry. We'll definitely try to go at a moderate pace for everyone.
Yeah. Okay.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, Bergen and all the judges, do y'all mind if we do thank you speeches or?
Yeah, we were planning on doing that too.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
I'm good with that.
Sounds good.
You want to do that first?
I think we'll just do it, like before we begin our first speech of the round.
Okay.
Okay, I was wondering, can you go over the order of speaking again, if you haven't done so, because I missed it. Sorry, like the debaters, can you tell me who's speaking like the first second?
Yeah, so I think it's Bergen MB on the neg speaking first.
Okay, and then what's the name of the first speaker from Bergen?
The first speaker is named Sahaj and the second speaker is named Arif.
Okay, what about Potame, Christopher, and Aaron? Who's speaking first?
Christopher's gone right now, but Christopher Tang is speaking first and Aaron Tian speaking second.
Okay. Thank you.
Jing, I sent you a message.
Yeah, I saw that. I get it now. Never mind the question.
Okay. Oh, no problem. I was just making sure you weren't on a different screen or anything like that. Some mornings, so when I go off camera to go take a bite, I could just go like this. It's not because I'm not listening to you guys. Okay, so I just want to warn you. Okay, cameras on. This is the last round. Stream live to everyone. I think we're missing one though. Everyone good? Okay, cool.
Yeah, so before I begin my speech, I'd like to say a few thank yous. It's obviously great to be here in like MSTOC finals. So first I'd like to thank my opponents, Aaron and Christopher. Like it's our second time debating you guys, and Aaron, it's been nice like talking to you over Discord and such. Then I'd also like to thank like our coaches, specifically like Coach Ben, Coach Max. They've been like a critical part of our success, like on the circuit this year. I'd also like to thank my friend Brennan. He has been like again crucial for us succeeding. He like he taught me from the ground up. He like kind of took me under his wing since last year in April. I'd also like to thank William and Ryan for helping us on this topic with prep and everything and giving us back half strategies. I also want to thank Himong. It's been great to like prep with you. Like you're the hardest working person I know. So thanks for like everything you've done. And I also want to thank Romir, Prisha, and Sarah. Shout out for like being in my county in New Jersey, and Romir for being like the first person I knew from debate. And Spencer and Alex, I'd like to like thank you for being my first partner, for like getting me started on this incredible journey. And Serena, Chloe, Emily, Lucas, Austin, Claire, Madhav, Jason, Kaylin, Christine, anyone from BCTC or anyone who's helped coach us, like it's been a great journey and thank you so much. And finally, I'd like to thank my amazing debate partner, Arav. He's the best debate partner anyone could ask for. And without him, I definitely wouldn't have been here. With that said, is anyone not ready for me to begin case? Then I'll begin. Time starts on my first word. For the last time in MSPF, Arav and I negate. Contention 1 is the economy. Japan's economy is slowly recovering from COVID and needs to maintain its current trajectory. Reuters 21 notes that Japan's growth projections predict GDP to hit a record as the economy shows signs of picking up. Unfortunately, affirming destroys this positive momentum in 2 key ways. First is Chinese backlash. Zhang 21 explains that Japan can revise its constitution or maintain ties with China, but not both because China opposes revision. In the event of a revision, Japan's #1 export partner would turn towards economic retaliation. Zhang 20 writes that China has increasingly relied on economic means to punish foreign governments that cross Chinese interests on sensitive issues. Second is taxation and deflation. AF16 notes that if Japan wants to build a modern military, it will take an incredible amount of capital and taxes must go up. That causes rampant deflation or reduced economic value. Chikafumi 20 writes that tax hikes intensify deflation concerns and debilitating falling prices trigger heavy Japanese government bond purchases. That would cause a global recession similar to the 1990 crisis. Gavin 10 writes that Japan experienced a banking crisis in the 90s as the economy began to rebound. Policymakers raised taxes, stalling the recovery and setting off deflation, a debilitating cycle of falling prices. The impact is a global recession. Auslin 09 finds that because of its interconnectivity, if Japan's economy collapses, global supply chains will be affected, with the 2008 global recession pushing 100 million into poverty. Contention 2 is credibility. In 2019, the JCIE labeled US presence in East Asia as a crisis due to US credibility suffering while Chinese influence rose. Fortunately, Caller 22 writes that Biden reasoned an approach to international affairs such as vaccine distribution and Korean peace, prioritizing domestic renewal and rebuilding US partnerships. Unfortunately, revising Article 9 reverses this trend in 2 possible scenarios. First is the drop in confidence, affirming signals that Japan doesn't trust the US military. Wadsworth 19 writes that a Japanese offensive capability would be interpreted by neighbors as a sign Tokyo is losing confidence in the US. This would start a chain reaction that causes more US allies to hedge with China or develop their own strike capabilities, increasing instability in Asia. But second is the blame game. The only other possibility is that Asian allies perceive constitutional revision as US-led, causing intense backlash. Kaufman 09 finds that Japan's revision of Article 9 against the backdrop of historic nationalism would have consequences for US relations with Japan's neighbors, as it appears Japan is rearming due to US support. The US would be ostracized by vital allies like Korea and Thailand due to fears. Thus, Rodriguez 21 writes that the country's greatest bulwark against fascism is its constitutional commitment to pacifism. The push to rebuild the military would embolden the far right as a spell of nationalist sentiment is articulated frequently in the demand for remilitarization. Overall, reduced confidence and increased ostracization spills over globally. OLA21 notes that the Asia-Pacific is critical to international affairs as it contains half the world order will be shaped by its politics and the US's role. Because security guarantees deter adversaries and reassure allies, Varnish 11 finds that the US military resulted in a 99% drop in deaths due to war. Brand 17 finds that US alliances deter aggressors by increasing the threats and the cost-benefit analysis. That's why Keck finds that hegemonic transition periods have historically been the most destabilizing eras, with the Harvard Belfer Center finding that 75% of the last 16 rising power conflicts ended in war, each one killing millions. Contention 3 is democracy. In order to revise Article 9, the Constitution requires a 2/3 approval in both the upper and lower houses of Japanese National Parliament and a simple majority vote by the population. However, Ambrosio 20 finds that Japan's ruling coalition lacks the 2/3 majority needed in the upper house, and Kitami finds that 59% of Japan's public does not support revising Article 9. Thus, Japan affirming forces an authoritarian change. 2 impacts. First, dehumanization by undermining self-governments. This has pre-fiat implication. By affirming, your ballot endorses disrespecting the will of the people, a precondition for the value of some lives over others. But second is mass protest. Perry 21 explains that amendments would plunge Japan into a divisive debate, provoking large-scale demonstrations. This spills over into violence, as Taipei Times 09 concludes that a debate would cause riots in the streets and bring down a government. Thus, we are proud to negate.
What was the pre-fiat part? Sorry, our internet was lagging out of here.
Yeah, no worries.
I'll just send rhetoric on the email chain.
Yeah, sure.
Like in the Google Doc, like a
Yeah,
link to the case or something.
Yeah, I'll send you rhetoric. Don't worry about it.
And once you sent that, I'm okay.
Yeah, it's in there.
All right. Okay, sure. All right. If everyone's ready. Okay. I'd like to start first with a little thank you speech. So first, I'd like to say thank you to. Sorry. Okay. First, I'd like to say thank you to my amazing partner Aaron, who has been with me from the start to finish. You literally carry me in every part of the debate, and you are the best debater I've ever met. Then I'd like to say thank you to our opponents. Without you guys, winning this tournament wouldn't mean anything, and you guys always motivate us to be better. I'd like to thank my coaches, Kirsten, Shrikar, Elisa, and especially Mai, who has been with us every round. You are the best coach I would have asked for. Next, I'd like to thank both my parents and my partner's parents who have supported us all the way. I'd like to thank my friends at Potomac and our prep group, Potomac WW and Potomac LW. They really helped us a ton get here, along with that, everyone in our debate class and Potomac. I never imagined myself standing here without all the help and support. And thanks to Zeke for judging all the rounds. I swear after this, you're actually gonna have a nap. Okay, without further ado. Time will start. Now, Potomac affirms contention 1 is peacekeeping. Article 9 hinders Japanese peacekeeping in the status quo. Huntington 18 writes Article 9 keeps Japanese forces from operating on the front lines of missions and limits them to non-combat activities. And Hideki 18 continues that Japanese participation in the US peacekeeping would necessitate amending the Constitution. Tolefson 18 confirms a revision of Article 9 would allow Japan to play a greater role in the conflict-torn areas. Revising Article 9 is essential amidst rising tensions between Bosnia and Serbia. Hussein 22 notes that tensions have flared up in recent months, threatening to revive the conflict in the region. Critically, Pasternak 2019 writes that both the US and the EU have been reluctant to maintain peace in the region, but Japan has consistently been trying to support helpless Bosnians, but can only do so much due to restrictions posed by Article 9. Revision will allow Japan to participate in the military operations that could end the conflict, as Pasternak writes that Japan could deploy troops in Bosnia, acting as deterrents against Serbian forces, reducing the potential for future conflict. Argentina concludes that peacekeeping operations can reduce the risk of conflict by over 2/3. The last Bosnian war killed over 100,000 people and displaced 2 million. Contention 2 is cyber. Yoshino 21 writes, Tokyo's cyber capabilities and defense are in the lowest tier globally. Unfortunately, Russia is preparing to target Japan with cyber attacks in the status quo. Hemingway 22 writes that companies in Japan which have imposed sanctions on Russia are at the risk of retaliatory cyber attacks. Japan's current system is vulnerable. Category 21 finds that the percentage of breaches per attempt on the Japanese network is 96.98%, a near certainty that a cyber attack would hit the target. Critically, Article 9 stops Japan from changing the system. Luxman 21 explains Article 9 prevents Japan from engaging in preemptive warfare and domestic surveillance, limiting the development and implementation of a holistic cybersecurity strategy. Therefore, affirming strengthens cybersecurity in 2 ways. First, to deterrence right now, Gady 17 finds Article 9 stops Japan from acquiring offensive cyber capabilities. Revision will stop cyber attacks before they happen. Matsubara 18 finds Japan will threaten adversaries with a cyber punishment so severe they will refrain from attacking it, as Tatsumi 20 confirms that a credible retaliation can deter states from launching a cyber attack. Second is through intelligence. Matsubara 18 furthers that Japan cannot perform operations on its own system to find vulnerabilities because of Article 9 constraints. Affirming is critical. Boron 15 explains assessing vulnerabilities in the system would allow Japan to patch them before an attack. The impact is an economic shock. A cyber attack would collapse Japan's supply chains. Both 22 finds Japan's and Japanese economies are exposed to attacks. Cyber attacks can be used to actively disrupt infrastructure and the economy. Catastrophically, Oslo 09 writes that if the Japanese economy declines, supply chains across the globe will be affected because Clarita 19 explains Japan is extremely interconnected with other Asian countries that are integrated in the global economy. UN 20 quantifies that if economic recovery from COVID is reversed, 250 million will fall into poverty. Contention 3 is the Kuril Islands. Tawari 21 writes that Russia has deployed mobile coastal defense missiles to the contested Kuril Islands, and Russia is conducting military drills on the disputed islands involving more than 3,000 troops and large amounts of military equipment. Moves that are in line with Moscow's plan to extend its military presence in the region. Critically, Weisinger 21 explains that Russian access to the southern islands gives Russian access to the Pacific, and Russia's access to the Pacific allows it to expand to the Arctic, as Molino 20 finds that in Russia's eastern Arctic, international vessels specifically have to travel through the Asian Pacific region to enter the Northern Sea route. However, access to the Arctic funds the Russian military. Bennett 22 finds that Russia's Arctic gas is funding Russian forces and their operations in Ukraine. Affirming and allowing Japan to develop offensive military capabilities would bring control into the islands and block Russian access. Weisinger continues that if Japan occupied the islands, it would severely limit the passage of Russian military. Indeed, Williams 22 finds that Japan has reinstated its historic claims on the islands, and the Japan Times 22 confirms Russia's recent pull-out from negotiations has caused Japan to shift towards a hostile position. Now is the best time to affirm. The INF 22 writes Ukraine crisis is the best time for Japan to compete for sovereignty because Russia's military is split. The impact is twofold. First, the UN writes that thousands have been killed and 12.8 million have been displaced. Second, Russia's invasion of Ukraine has caused prices for oil and food to skyrocket. As last C22 reports, the conflict has pushed oil prices to their highest level since 2008, and war has slashed Ukraine's economy by 45%. That's why Mitchell 22 concludes price spikes will push over 40 million into extreme poverty. For these reasons, we affirm. All right, Ayers across.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, you can have the first question.
Okay, let me just actually begin with the time. Right. Who legally owns and controls the Kuril Islands right now?
Right now, the Kuril Islands, as we tell you, are disputed lands, but technically, I would say no one owns it. Sure, you can search up that Japan has, quote, claims on the Kuril Islands, but actually, Japanese presence is lacking, and the only one who's currently there and using him is Russia. May I have a question?
No, can I have a follow-up?
Sure.
Yeah, no, these islands, legally are owned by Russia. They're not even though Japan contests it, legally they're owned by Russia.
No, I would say that this has gone from a long time ago. Kuril Islands disputes. They're still disputed territories. It's not owned by either of them. May I have a question?
Sure, take a question. We'll contest that though.
Yeah, so that's fine. Okay, so let's go on to your US credibility. You tell me that sorry, wait. Actually, okay, wait. Let's go on to your sorry. Okay, yeah. So let's go on to your US credibility. You tell me that China influence grows and this gets worse. So right now, are there any countries that are currently leading to China specifically?
Are there ways you cut out for me? I'm sorry.
So you tell me that right now, you tell me that once US credibility goes down, China influence is going to grow, correct? So right now, are there any countries that are leaning towards China? And even once US credibility goes down, what specific countries will be turning towards China?
Okay, yeah. So to answer the first part, insofar as Biden's has committed to the region, the credibility is going to steadily go up unless you affirm. But to answer the second part, we give you the examples of South Korea and I think Thailand, if I remember correctly.
And why would South Korea and Thailand prefer China over the US?
Because they're scared about the US's pressure on Japan. Can I have a question now?
I'm sorry, I have a follow-up because so you tell me that they're scared of US pressure on Japan. This gives me no warrant here. So South Korea and Thailand suddenly want to go to China if there's US pressure on Japan.
Right,
I still don't get the link.
So yeah, it's fears of historic nationalism for Japan. The US is pushing for Japan to go back to its real militarized state. Can I have a question?
So sure, you can have a question.
Okay. Let's talk about your contention too about cyber. Can you explain the second link?
Our second link is basically telling you that you can stop vulnerabilities as once you affirm, Japan will be able to, for example, conduct cyber attacks on itself, which is so key because it sees vulnerabilities in its own system, which it can't right now due to Article 9. We have specific evidence on it.
So you're saying Japan can't attack itself because of Article 9?
Yes. And once they do, they're able to see vulnerabilities. We can send the card after cross. May I have a question?
Yeah, I'll take that after cross.
Okay, so sure. Let's go on to back onto your US credibility link. You tell me that okay. Yeah. You tell me that like countries will fear like the US being back. Well, like US severely supported when Japan was able to go into other regions and revise Article 9 in not only 2014 and 2015, where not only was this a bad choice, but not only was this like US severely supported this, and we haven't seen any of your impacts happen.
Okay, like, is that a question? But B crosses over.
Yeah, that's the question is like, why hasn't your impacts happened? But yeah, sure.
Because like that wasn't as severe. Like because an official revision would be like worse.
Okay, I don't think I'm gonna need any prep time, so before I begin though, it's just going to like start with a couple of thank you notes. So it's a real honor to be at like one of the biggest rounds in all of middle school. So I just wanted to like say a quick thank you for all the people that helped me to be here. First is my parents. They're the one who've been paying for like debate and helping me through all of this. And I also want to thank Max and Ben for just being great coaches and helping us make it to where we are. Also, I'd like to thank Aaron and Christopher, the opponents, because y'all made us better after we dropped to you at Harvard. So it's always been this motivation to get better at debate. And then I want to thank Hamong and Arun because y'all are some of my best friends and have been helping me. And you're making me the best debater that I can possibly be. I'd also like to thank Inya just for being a great friend and always inspiring me to do better. And then I want to thank Brandon, William, and Brian for always like helping us prepare and figuring out good strats. And then I want to thank everyone in BCDC for just inspiring me and helping me on this journey. And lastly, I want to thank my amazing partner, Sahaj, for just being a great debater and helping me out throughout all of this. So with that said, if everybody is ready, it's going to go down their case. Anyone not ready? Okay, cool. Time starts now. Start on the first contention about peacekeeping. At the top, Japan can already do this right now, as according to Japan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Japan has cooperated in peacekeeping operations since 1992 with its SDF. You prefer this evidence over anything they say because it's from Japan itself. Thus, the affirmative isn't changing Japan's ability to participate in missions. Even then, I would say that there's no incentive for them to go to Bosnia and Serbia. Why do they care? But then you delink this argument because according to Guru 18, peacekeeping operations require the consent of the host country. If consent is not granted, Japan's peacekeepers will not be allowed entry. Record 13 finds that offensive peacekeepers are seen as an occupation force which pushes citizens to join armed groups, adding to local resistance. That means that Japan's intervention will cause rebel groups to grow in size and morale. But even then, the Bostoner 19 evidence explains that Japan has refrained from contributing to missions with high potential for hostilities. That's really important because affirming doesn't change Japan's decision-making for which conflicts they want to join, only their ability to procure of offensive weapons. In fact, that evidence says that currently offensive militaries like the United States and Europe are unwilling to maintain peace in Bosnia. If they're not willing to do so, it's not clear why Japan is willing to do so. Go to the second contention about cyber. At the top, I would say that Russia's bogged down in Ukraine, so they don't have the funding to spend on cyber. Even then, like nothing has actually happened to Japan. They've never had like a major cyber attack that destroyed them. And even then, the Russian cyber attacks specifically aren't successful, as Time 22 finds that despite having no qualms about a large-scale cyber attack, no such devastating attacks have been used on Ukraine. If their impacts will trigger, they obviously would have used them on Ukraine. But second, you turn this argument as attacks are unsuccessful and provoke escalation. US operations prove. Valeriano 19 finds that while offensive cyber operations are successful just 4% of the time, every attack risks inadvertent escalation and retaliatory action. Clearly, the probability of their case is really low. That's why you turn to our evidence, which tells you that escalation happens. And lastly, I would say that the US already deters, as Herald 17 finds that US already has cyber operations in Japan, so you don't need to affirm. That's why you haven't seen any Russian attack. Go to the last contention about the Kuril Islands. First, the only link that they have for the incentive is a diplomatic stance on who owns the island. The simplest explanation is that this is part of Japan's condemnation of Russia's actions, not drumming the war machine. But second, Russia already has the islands because Japan gains nothing from invading. Lee 22 finds there have been no Japanese citizens there since 1947. There's no incentive for them to reclaim the islands. But even then, you turn this argument to our side because my opponents are literally advocating for starting a war with Russia over islands that Japan hasn't had since World War II. Given that Russia is already backed up against the wall in Ukraine, the AF is making it extremely likely that Russia pursues catastrophic options to punish Japan. Cross-apply their own cyber contention. If what they say is true, then Russia would immediately attack Japan's cyber grid when you vote for the affirmative. But lastly, you're going to turn this argument again because if Japan tries to reclaim the Kuril Islands, they'd lose support from the U.S. as TOS22 finds that the U.S. wants a peace treaty, not an invasion. And even then, BBC finds that Russia legally owns the islands. Japan renounced all their claims of wanting the islands in World War II. At that point, you always negate.
Okay, I'm gonna take a minute. Okay, I will just take running prep. Show me time start.
Wait, pause prep at 25. Can we see that the US wants a peace treaty, not like an invasion?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, just put in the admin.
And we'll start prep when you said it. Yeah.
It's at the top.
Do you have this in like a card or?
I mean, like you can just control F peace treaty because that's what you asked
Alright,
for,
sure.
right? Yeah.
I mean, like it's the first paragraph in the article.
Yeah, even then, here I'll put the paragraph in there.
Yeah, I put it in.
All right, thank you. All right, we're gonna continue prep. We received the evidence. Okay. And, oh, sorry. By the way, I was paused at 20. Okay, prep resume now.
Okay, that's 45. Yeah. Okay. Oh, before I start, I also want to have a few thank yous to give as well. First, I want to thank Potomac and all our coaches, Elisa, Shrikar, Kristen, Mai. Y'all have been the best coaches ever, and you're so helpful. Thank you for all the help. Second, I want to thank Chris for being my partner. We were together from the beginning to the end, and I want to thank Chris's parents for letting me stay over at their house for 3 days. And I want to thank my own parents for funding my activities and always being really encouraging. I want to thank my prep group, Sherry, Erica, Harrison, and Paul. Y'all are amazing debaters and congrats on breaking at the TOC. Then I want to give a really big thank you to my partner last year, Ray. They taught me literally like everything I know about debate. So huge thank you. And I wouldn't be here without you. I want to thank all the amazing people I met through debate. Pranav, Emily, Johnny, Arav, Sahaj, our opponents, Brad, and all the friends I met along the way. Shout out to all the Bergen kids. Of course, y'all are the best. And then I want to thank UK for hosting such a great tournament, along with all the judges who judged this weekend. Thank you for putting in the time. Specifically, once again, thanks Zeke for judging all the rounds. With that, quick off-time roadmap. it'll just be frontlining and then down their case. If everyone's ready, time starts now. On peacekeeping, first they say that they can peacekeep, but realize our evidence says they can't do combat missions. They can like peacekeep, but they can't go on the front line. That's why they had to pull out of Sudan in 2016, and that's why peacekeeping isn't as effective right now. Then they say the host country has to consent. Our evidence tells you they do, and specifically that Japan is incentivized to help already, but Article 9 restricts any further help. Third, they say Japan avoids hostility. Yes, that's because Article 9 prevents them from fighting back. This changes when you vote us. That's response to all the responses. On C2, we'll concede all the defense. On C3, they are beating the war zones right now. Our evidence updates. There's Williams in the Japan Times find that failed negotiations have increased Japanese hostility. They say cyber retaliation, but extend their own response that these don't have a big impact. Then they say the U.S. wants peace. Yeah, then the U.S. is going to support ending the Ukraine conflict, and their own evidence says they want negotiations. It doesn't say they want war. But then I'd say retaliation won't happen either way because Senate 22 finds that Japanese forces can easily overrun the Russian military and the Kurils, and if Russia is so split, there would not be any response. That kicks out of retaliation. Let's go to their case. On C1, they make a logical fallacy. That's because China and Japan have high trade, so China wouldn't retaliate and risk economic collapse. Sing 21 writes that today, China's third largest source of foreign income and third largest trading partner. Specifically, now China 22 finds that in order to combat a new wave of COVID, China has locked down at least 373 million people across 44 cities, which contribute 40% of China's GDP. Businesses have shut down, and China is at the brink of recession. Harker concludes that this will lock China out of the global economy until 2024. Because China is facing such a big economic crisis and Japan is a huge trading and investment partner, China isn't going to cut trade because it risks collapsing their own economy. On taxes, I'd say Japan is able to maintain the world's 5th largest military while having a cap at 1% military spending. That means they're not going to have to increase military spending by a lot, which means that taxes don't go up. They have zero quantification on like why tax raises happen, or like tax raises happen around the world all the time. We don't see their impacts materialize. Global recessions don't happen all the time either. Like there's no clarity. On C2, their argument is super flawed because they make a logical fallacy. There's no warrant as to why authoritarian parties are put into power. The resolution is specific for it to be only amending one article, Article 9. That means none other like authoritarian policies are passed. No rights are restricted. Their link doesn't even make sense. There's no link between affirming and like creating all these bad policies. But then here's 2 reasons why the LDP and the authoritarian parties won't gain power and pass policies. First, the LDP policy wouldn't get passed anyways due to the Komeito party, a pacifist party. LIF 18 confirms the Komeito party has a veto over the LDP on militaristic matters. The 2 parties have shared a mutual dependency that enables Komeito to punch significantly above its weight in policies, which means they can veto any bad things. None of their authoritarian impacts happen. Second is there's no political will. Historically, even the 2014 reinterpretation caused former Prime Minister Abe's popularity to decline. The Guardian quantifies that Abe's domestic approval ratings had plummeted to only 48% due to his reinterpretation. Nadal 21 finds that Japanese citizens also provide a check on the ambitions of nationalists. That means if you revise Article 9 when you affirm, their approval ratings will plummet too. We agree that there are protests in the short term. Protests happen around globally. There's no like big impact, but in the long term, these protests and lowering approval rating means that these authoritarian regimes are voted out of power, which means we link it to their impacts, getting rid of any authoritarian impact in the future. On U.S. hedge, they make a contradiction. They say the revision will show that Japan is losing confidence. Then they see as revision is seen as U.S. led. We'll concede that it's seen as U.S. led. Insofar as that's true, other countries don't lose confidence. They see the U.S. is backing it. But here's why other countries won't get mad and they'll actually like increase alliances. Revision forces Japan to make amends, which means relations go up and no country retaliates. Right now, Reuters 22 finds reluctance to atone for past wartime aggression has hindered cooperation with Japan's allies. Thankfully, Sugawa 2000 explains Japan will have to pursue confidence building measures aimed at amending ties with neighbors in order to build regional support for Japan's revision. The incentive is because of political potential retaliation. Japan is incentivized to go out and solve the history issue. That means if other countries forgive Japan, they won't get mad at the U.S. U.S. credibility won't go down. In fact, getting past the historical barrier is better for these alliances. Thank you and vote AF.
All right, you ready for cross?
Wait, before y'all start cross, can I have the like warrant, like the evidence that you read on for the warrant on why Japan can maintain a military at like 1% capacity?
That was an analytic. Like, do you want the card that they're like already have a big military and that they're capped at 1, or like it's just?
I think I'm good.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, ready for cross?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I have the first question?
Sure.
Cool. Time starts now. All right. So as a front line to the peacekeeping argument, right? You tell me that Japan has pulled out of South Sudan in the past, right?
Yeah,
if Article 9 limits them from doing anything that you say in peacekeeping, right? How did they get to Sudan in the first place?
right. So we also concede that sure, like on the first response, we concede that sure they can peacekeep, but it's not good. Like they can't do hostile operations. That's why they had to
Wait.
pull out. That's why they don't go to conflict. That's why they don't go to areas with lots of conflict. Hold on, I need to drink water.
Hold up. Oh yeah, take a sip. But can I have a follow-up question?
Yeah, sure.
Right. You tell me that right now they don't do hostile operations and that changes when you affirm. Is it
Not
not
hostile. It's
then
like
what did you say?
militaristic. Yeah.
Okay, so like right, if the whole idea is peacekeeping, how does militaristic operations help them?
Because
Peacekeeping is like a soft power type of diplomacy idea, right?
right, but that's not like specifically in the Bosnia scenario. You need to have someone with a military go and intervene in between these two countries
Hold
in
up.
conflict and deter
But
conflict.
If someone with a military comes and intervenes, right? They're on
Yeah.
one side, not both.
Sure, still stops war. Can I have a question?
Wait, so you're advocating for Japan to go and fight?
No, we're advocating for Japan to go and deter any chance of conflict. Can I have a question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so why would like competence go down if it's seen as US backed, the revision?
Okay, we tell you that the entire East Asian region doesn't like a revision of Article 9, right? Because they see like imperialist ideas being brought back. Japan had they like the idea of pacifism, right?
Yeah.
But they see this as US led because the US supports a revision.
So
Yeah,
are you
I'll
gonna drop
take a
Are
what?
you gonna drop Wadsworth?
Huh?
Are you gonna drop Wadsworth, the link?
Yeah, sure. We dropped the first link. The
Okay,
second
cool.
link is what's most important.
Sure.
Okay.
Oh.
On Russia, right?
Yeah.
So is the argument that Japan, when you affirm Japan goes and fights a war with Russia, and that's a good thing?
Not necessarily they fight a war, but they take the islands. Our
Okay.
evidence,
Quick
our standard
question.
evidence indicates there's no war because Russia cannot retaliate. Yeah, what's your
Okay.
follow-up?
I mean, okay, Russia can retaliate, but the question is like, why does
Yeah, you don't do that.
Japan even want the Kuril Islands? Like they don't have any population
Okay,
on the Kuril
so-
Islands. They're man-made islands. I don't see the reason.
Do you want like our evidence? Or
No,
do you
I don't
me
want
to-
your evidence. I just want like
Yeah.
why you think
So
this
it's because they view it as like their territory. They put a historical claim on it. So obviously they want to take the territory, and our INF evidence finds that right now is uniquely the best time. That's cross.
Sure. Yeah, that's gross.
Arav took
Also,
note.
can I see the INS evidence that tells me that
Yeah,
like, right
Chris,
now
can you
it's
send that?
uniquely the best time?
Yeah, when you guys send that, I'll begin prep.
Here's a link. Okay.
Wait, are you gonna? Can you put in the doc? Like,
Yeah,
where's the link?
Chris, can you put it on doc?
Yeah, here. Let me, okay, I'll just put it at the bottom. There you go, link. And then, let me find a specific paragraph.
Yeah, it's in the we put the code in. It's the first paragraph as well. Okay. I'll start your prep now. If that's fine.
Wait, where is it?
It's at the bottom of the evidence file.
Oh,
And
the
then-
bottom. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait, y'all collapsed on C1, right?
No.
If you don't mind, if you don't mind
but-
flex prep.
Okay. Well, I'll just run it. No, we frontline C1 and C3. We just
Okay,
conceded
cool.
C2.
Yeah. That was 3 seconds, so I'll
Sure.
take like actual prep now. A minute 57. I'll take a minute 57. I'll give you a thumbs up when I start because I have to get on a call with RF. Oh wait, let me mute on my FaceTime. Sorry, my Gmail opened. Okay, yeah. The order is going to be their argument about peacekeeping, their argument about the Kurils, and our argument about the economy, then the weighing debate. Oh wait, sorry, I'm unmuted. Let me pull up my timer. Start on their argument, start on the argument about peacekeeping. It's game over when Aaron drops a ton of responses that Arav makes. First, they don't give you a single warrant on why Japan wants to go to Bosnia to peacekeep. I'd say they rather wouldn't get involved. That's why you saw them pull out of South Sudan in the past. But second, affirming doesn't change Japan's decision-making for which conflicts they want to join, only their ability to procure offensive weapons. In fact, the evidence that we read says that currently offensive militaries like the US and Europe aren't willing to maintain peace in Bosnia. But third, Japan only makes things worse. That's because when they go to Bosnia, they embolden rebel groups. That's really important because it's like conflict happens more often. Let's go to the argument about the Kuril Islands. Don't let them go for it. They concede what Arv tells you is the only link they have for the incentive is a diplomatic stance on who owns the island. The simplest explanation for that is that this is only a part of Japan's condemnation of Russian actions in Ukraine. They're not drumming the war machine. That goes conceded. Don't let them bring it up again. But even then, I say a Kuril Island war would be really, really bad. I say a Kuril Island war would be really, really bad. That's because it would like trigger Article 5 of the 1960 treaty. It would bring in the US, Russia, like they're not going to risk that. But then even then, they concede that Russia legally owns the islands. That means that nothing like actually changes since like Japan renounced all claims to it in like formally renounced all claims to it in the past. It doesn't matter what they're saying now insofar as it's not formal. But let's go to our side. The best argument on our side is ours about the economy. Currently, the Japanese economy is on an upward trajectory, whereas when you affirm this trend reverses in two key ways. The first is Chinese backlash. Realize that when you affirm, China gets mad, they caught afraid. You see that happen with like Australia and Canada. They give you one response here is that like it's going to hurt China's economy as well. That doesn't matter. In like Japan's economy to China is a drop in the bucket compared to China's economy to Japan. Insofar as they're doing more harm to Japan rather than like they are doing harm to themselves, they still do it anyway. But second, on like the extending link on taxation deflation, realize that a revision would require a lot more military spending. That's going to raise taxes because Japan doesn't have like enough of deficit spending potential. That's really important. They give you this one response about how they can maintain military spending at like 1%. There's literally no warrant. Our evidence says that like it needs to increase capital massively. They have too much debt, so they can't use it to that. That's why they use taxes. On the impact, they say there's like zero quantification. There's no clarity. 1990 historically proves that deflation leads to a like recession. That goes conceded. That's going to put 100 million into poverty. But let's go in the weighing debate. We are the best link to war in the round. That's because when you have a recession, that triggers instability. That's the biggest cause of war. You prefer our link in on scope because when they're like on their impact, they're only talking about a Bosnian war and a war in the Kuril Islands. Realize that we link into wars all over the globe, which is why you always prefer us. At that point, it's a clean vote for the next side.
Three things. First, can I see that Japan renounced ownership in the past? Second,
Yeah,
can I
sure.
see that can I see the rhetoric of Russia will retaliate? Just the rhetoric is fine. Third, can I see that wait, third, like just take a little bit of flex prep. What did you say? What was your front lines on taxes?
On taxes, on the first one about China, like it's a Japan like to China is a drop in the bucket compared to China to Japan. That's really important because insofar as it does more harm than good, like it's insofar as it does more harm than good to Japan, like they prefer it. But then on taxes, like they maintain the military, like you say they maintain the military at 1%. There's no warrant. Our evidence says that like they need increased capital. And then on no clarity, like 1990 proves. How long was it? Yeah, how long was it?
15 seconds.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. Can we have the evidence and we'll start prep for
Which evidence again?
First that Japan renounced claims on the curl. Second is the rhetoric for Russia will retaliate, and that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, yes, Sahaj, are you putting the renounced stuff in? Because I can do
Yeah,
that.
I will put that in.
I can just do that. You want it at the top or the bottom?
No, I have that part. Can you put in the rhetoric?
What
Actually,
rhetoric?
I think the rhetoric was like off my flow, so I don't like have it written out. Like it was just a like extension from ours. So like,
Yeah.
which specific rhetoric are you talking about?
Wait, I'm pretty sure in like summary you read that Russia will retaliate if like they go to the girls.
I don't extend that. These things I extend are like it's it's just like diplomacy. It's part of their like grand scheme to condemn Russia that was conceded from rebuttal. B, like you guys are advocating for war, but C, Russia legally owns them.
Oh, okay, yeah, got it. We'll take prep now.
Okay.
Okay, wait. Now, hold on.
Wait, how much prep do you all have left? Because I think that was like 2:15 from this.
No,
then-
sorry, we were trying to get the audio issue. It was 2 minutes.
Oh, okay.
So we have 45 seconds.
No, we used 40, so we have 20 seconds. 'Cause-
Oh, okay.
Wait.
good, yeah.
Okay.
We have 20 seconds left. Okay. Without further ado, if everyone's ready, it's going to be on our case, their case, and the win. Okay. My time starts now. Concede Japan go to concede that Japan can't go to Bosnia. That kicks out of the turn. Extend our C3. We win the round because they ignore our one key card. Williams 22 finds Japan has reinstated its historical claims on the islands. This kicks out of all of their responses. This completely post-dates, and it's from 2022. It doesn't matter if it's formal. It matters Japan is saying that right now. They say that right now Russia has claimed. Remember, again, the islands are disputed, but I would say we post-date theirs, telling you our Williams 22 evidence tells you that they have reinstated claims, making it then remember, they miss our other uniqueness, saying that Japan and Russia have been in the negotiations in the past. However, Russia has only recently kicked out of negotiations due to Japan imposing sanctions. This proved that Japan has never given up the islands. They were only in negotiation. This was extended straight from case to rebuttal to summary. They have ignored this. Then they tell you that Japan aren't, then they say that we're sending Japan for war. We're not sending in Japan for war. The reason a war doesn't happen is that we specifically tell you Russia is weak right now, which is why Japan is able to occupy the islands. Russia cannot retaliate. Our standard 22 evidence finds Japanese forces can easily overrun the Russian military in the Kurils, and with Russia so split, there would be no response, which kicks out their retaliation impact. On evidence is specific, and their response comes far too late in the round. This isn't war. This is just taking over the islands. There's no retaliation. We've been making this implication throughout the entire round. They have dropped this. Our link is super clear. Right now, Russia has the islands disputed claims. Don't buy what they tell you. Japan has historical claims over the island, and Williams from you find Japan has reinstated historical claims. You affirm because once you affirm, Japan can retake the islands as Russia is weak there now. That's important. It stops Russian access and to the Pacific, blocking access to Arctic oil, which is currently funding the war in Ukraine. Stopping the war is key as Russian invasion of Ukraine has caused prices for oil and food to skyrocket. As Michelle 22 continues, that prices will push over 40 million into extreme poverty. They are not the best thing to war because war is already happening right now. Unless you affirm, that means that we're the cleanest thing to war because we're solving a war. But then we're the better link into the economy because price spikes from the war will push 40 million into poverty. And these price spikes have 100% probability of happening as they're happening right now. It is a lot more clear than their arguments. Stopping the war is also important because it cuts Ukraine's economy by 45%. Recession is on its way and Ukraine would also have global implications. Let's take down their link on economy. Go to their case. They make a logical fallacy. You can delink this. China and Japan have high trade, so China wouldn't retaliate and risk economic collapse. As Sing 21 writes, today Japan is Japan is third China's largest source. Japan is one of the largest sources of trade. Don't buy what they say. But then specifically now, in order to combat the new wave of COVID, China has already locked down at least 337 million people and 40% of China's GDP. And businesses have shut down and China's at the brink of a recession. This is so specific because it's telling you that China is facing a big economic crisis, which is why right now they cannot kick out of Japan. On taxes, they dropped that Japan is able to maintain the world's fifth military while having a cap of 1%. They do not need taxes. They're already advocating for more military anyways. They completely dropped this warranty. Then at the end of the day, they have zero quantification, either taxes around the world. We don't see their impact materialize. Give no number on how much spending will go up to the point where they have no response right now. Japan is already advocating for more military spending. Then remember, let's go into the Wang. We're winning here. We give you a bright line. We're telling you once you revise Article 9, Japan can go into the Kuril Islands and outweigh lives. For these reasons, we are. Sorry, that was like 5 seconds over.
No worries, no worries.
Yeah, I believe we have. Wait, Saj, how much did you take?
Cross. Arif.
Oh, whoops.
Yeah. Are y'all ready for cross?
Yeah, sure. We're in.
Okay. Let's talk about your second content. Let's talk about your third contention about the Kuril Islands, right? What effect does it have? Like, even if Russia owns if Russia legally owns the islands, what effect does Japan unofficially making a claim that it reinstates?
Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
So basically, we're telling you that right now Japan has the incentive to attack, but they can't, and they can't reoccupy these islands because of Article 9. That's why you don't see Japan in there right now. Then once you revise Article 9, Japan can actually go in and be able to retake these islands. That's why it's so matter that reinstating the claims, because it's basically telling you that Japan currently has the incentive. The only thing that's stopping them is Article 9, which is why it's so key to revise that you're stopping Russia from going into the Arctic and drilling for oil, directly funding into the Ukraine crisis, which was completely uncontested. Maybe you have a question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so let's go into your argument about taxes. You tell me that taxes will increase in the past when other countries increased, for example, military spending, for example, like the US, these impacts materialized.
Wait, you cut out for me at
I'm sorry.
other countries, yeah.
Okay, so when other countries increase spending in the past, has any of these impacts ever materialized?
Okay, right. See, the difference is Japan. Our evidence is really good because it tells you that Japan can't do it the way the other countries did, which is through deficit spending. That's because they have too much debt. It's like 256% or something like right now. That's really important because what it shows you is that the only way to solve is taxes. That's
okay,
why
and
the other countries. We spent
taxes
a minute.
go up?
Wait, what?
How much will taxes go up?
I mean, I don't have the number off the top of my head, but what I would tell, but A, that's new, but B, insofar as our evidence says it.
New. You can finish. Sorry.
Okay, A, it is, but B, insofar as it requires a significant amount of capital, I'd say to go up massively. That's what the evidence says.
Okay,
Can
so you have a question. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's again. Let's just. Why does Japan care so much about these islands?
Because they have a historical claim.
Because they have a historical claim on them. Remember, again, we're telling you that you keep saying that Japan has given up on the islands. That's true. Since the 1900s, Japan and Russia have been in negotiations. Our entire warning here is that the reason that Japan has reinstated these claims right now is because Russia has currently kicked out of negotiations after Japan has increased sanctions on them due to what happened in Ukraine. That is our entire uniqueness. You've been dropping this the entire round.
No.
We're telling you that Japan has been in negotiations in the past.
Okay. But what we tell you is that they're condemning what Russia is doing in Ukraine. That's why they're just trying to reignite tensions, right? Not reignite tensions, but just trying to condemn Russia as a whole.
Yeah, but y'all can have a question now.
Okay, sure. Let's go on to your, let's go back onto your tax point. So wouldn't you agree that as so far as Japan currently spends less than 1% on military spending, and Japan's own,
Wait,
sorry,
They already
can I
have an outline. Oh yeah, sure.
and Japan is already advocating for more military spending, wouldn't you agree that Japan is already prepared since they're already advocating for more military spending? Sorry, that's cross.
Okay, the advocation that you're talking about is switching from 1% to 2%. That is like, that's just a plan. That only happens after you revise Article 9. They can't do that right now.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. I'll take like, wait, how much time do we have left, Lodge? A minute? Yeah.
Exactly a minute. Yeah.
Okay. Time starts when I give you a thumbs up.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. So it's just gonna go their case, our case, and Wang. Is everybody ready? Great. Time starts now. My opponents are trying to muddle up the debate round, but at the end of the day, it's a clean vote for the neg. Let's go to their argument about the Kuril Islands. On Japan, like reigniting its claims, they drop what we tell you, which is that it's just a part of condemning Russia because of the Ukraine crisis. That means that they'll never actually try to invade the Kuril Islands. They're not going to fight a war with a major superpower. But even if you can see that Russia is weak right now, don't buy the idea that they're not going to respond at all. It's their own territory. My opponents want a war to happen, but B, they're literally not weak. They didn't use a lot of military power to take Ukraine. I'd say that even if they used manpower and even if they used a lot of manpower in Ukraine, they can still turn through things like nukes. At that point, the only place to vote is our case. We tell you that when you revise Article 9, China gets escalated and uses sanctions as a way to retaliate. They've done this in the past. They try to tell you that China and Japan have high trade. Again, they drop what we tell you. China is more important for Japan than Japan is for China. Insofar as these sanctions harm Japan more than they harm China, China's going to do it anyway. They've done it in the past. Don't let them respond again in second final focus. On the second link about taxation, our evidence tells you that the only way to solve for an increasing military budget is taxes. They don't interact with our warranting that says they can't deficit spend like other countries are doing. That's key because it means that taxes are the only solvency. At that point, you extend our impact of a recession and 100 million people going into poverty. On the evidence about increasing spending already, that's a proposal. It won't be implemented unless you revise Article 9. But on the way, even if they win their impacts of war, we are the best link into war. That's because economic instability breeds conflict. That's the Harvard card that Sahaj reads you. Prefer our link on magnitude because while they only link to the Kuril conflict, we link into wars all over the world. That's the biggest place to vote in the round. Thus, don't fix something that's not broken. Negate.
Okay. We'll take our remaining 20 seconds of prep once I send it. Okay.
Okay. Oh, you're me. Okay. It'll just be. Let me change. Great. Curl, then curl, Wang, staircase. Time starts now. Start on curl. Our link is super clear. Williams 22 finds Japan has reinstated its historic claims on the islands. That kicks out of all the responses. It's completely post-haste. It doesn't matter if it's formal or not. It says it matters that Japan is saying that right now. They have no warrant as to why it's part of retaliation. Our evidence is really specific that they've gone hostile. Article 9 is the only barrier. You affirm because once you affirm Japan can retake the islands as Russia is weak right now. Stanza 22 finds that Japanese forces can easily overrun the Russian military in the curls. They don't have evidence. Our evidence is really specific, and their response comes far too late in the round in first summary. And this isn't war. It's just taking over the islands because there is no retaliation. Russia's military is spread too thin. They can easily overrun the curls. Remember that. Taking over is important as it stops Russian access to Pacific, blocking access to the Arctic oil, which is currently funding the war in Ukraine. Stopping the war is key. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has caused prices for food and oil to skyrocket. Mitchell 22 concludes that price spikes will push over 40 million into extreme poverty. They are not the best link into war because war is already happening right now. Unless you affirm, that means we're the cleanest link into war because a war is literally happening right now. And we solve it. But then we're the better link into the economy because price spikes from the war will push 40 million to poverty. These price spikes have a 100% probability of happening. They're happening right now. It's a lot more clear than their arguments. Stopping the war is also important because it cuts the Ukrainian economy by 45%. A recession is on the way, and Ukraine would also have global implications just like Japan. But then here's why they don't even link it to the economy. They make a big mistake conceding our response on trade, and because of that, it's a logical fallacy. Because China is facing such a big economic crisis from the COVID, which they concede, and Japan is literally the largest trading investment partner, China isn't going to cut trade against Japan right now because it risks collapsing their economy. They miss their warranting that is super specific because China is suffering severely from COVID right now, which is why they actually specifically value any economic ties more. They're not going to risk any form of hurting their economy. They're already suffering too much. On taxes, they dropped that Japan is able to maintain the world's fifth largest military. We're having a cap of 1% spending. That means they don't need to build up so much. And insofar as they can see that it'll take less than 1% of GDP, taxes aren't going to increase. Tax rates, but then they can see that tax rates happen around the world all the time. We don't see their impacts materialize. Global recession doesn't happen. Based on probability, the US has the most debt, yet tax raises don't lead to recessions. Their link is absolutely not true. It's a big logical fallacy. The round is really simple. We win our case, they don't. For the last time in MSPF, we strongly affirm.
Good round, y'all.
Good round, everyone. And
Good
thanks for
round.
judging. Yeah, thanks for
Thank
judging.
you all so much for judging.
From Potomac, let me see. Williams,
Okay.
and let me see. Like, actually, can y'all just email me like all of the evidence? I also need like I need like everything for it, to be honest with you. And then from Bergen, let me see. Japan is just a drop in the bucket.
Okay, yeah.
Wait, that's everything on curl.
Everything.
Okay. Wait, that's gonna take us like 3 minutes if you don't mind.
Okay. Let me just see like the link evidence and the Williams evidence.
Okay, so that like affirming solves. Okay.
Also, like the drop in the bucket stuff, it was just using Japan being China's largest trade partner, and yeah.
Yeah.
Can you just put the taxation part on there for me, please?
Yeah, sure. Like that they need to have taxation.
The taxation deficit spending.
Yeah, sure.
It's similar to the 90s crisis.
Okay, yeah, no worries. I'll put that in.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just put the 3 cards at the top of the document. The first page. Let me know if like you need anything else. Don't worry.
Okay, Zeke, Judge Zeke, we sent the solvency and the uniqueness. The uniqueness evidence isn't like cut though, but you have the quotes in the link.
Yeah, it works.
I've already made my decision. I just want to let you know. You guys take your time though, okay?
Okay, I was the last to submit, so I'll give the result. First off, I've said this every round, but now more than ever, y'all should be absolutely like so proud of yourself. All of you have done an amazing job getting this far, and you all have such bright futures in this activity from what I've seen in this round. To make MSTOC means you're all going to do ridiculously well in the circuit next year. And I'm like, I know all of you like well enough, and I'm super proud of all of you from getting this far. The decision was a 3-0 for the neg. I don't know who wants to go first, but once again, cannot state this enough from both teams. Phenomenal work. I don't really know who wants to go first.
I want to go first. I just want to say, like, okay, obviously, congratulations. I really enjoyed this debate. It's in the finals for a good reason, and I can see that. So I'll just go with first of all the Virgin. I really liked how they explain every nuance in their argument. Like their contentions are specifically tied to Japan, and also they just explain details. Like for example, I'll give you an example. Like Crossfire, when they this is the last sentence they said. Like it's like basically it was to increase from 1% to 2%, which is a small change and very insignificant, and it's only done after Article 9 revision. And I was like, okay, that's important because it's one thing to say, oh, Article 9 revision will make changes, but what changes? How? Like you gotta give me specifics, and what they did that was very good. Like they told you exactly what it was, and it proves the point that sure, you can say it does make changes, but it's not going to be significant. So how is it going to impact anything? So I like nuances in the argument, and that's what they did really well here. And second, so this is an example. But Potomac, I have to say, I love the use of logical fallacy in their argument, but I felt that it was like I was actually thinking of voting for Potomac for their for introducing logical fallacy and contradiction in Burgeon's argument. But the thing is, in the end, I do think that nuances in arguments and specifics in arguments weigh more than contradictions that they pointed out. So for me, I place higher priority over specifics over like if you introduce contradictions in your opponent's argument, sure, I'm gonna look on that favorably too, but it's just it wouldn't weigh as much as if you pointed out, if you were being like so careful pointing out nuances, basically tearing every single argument apart limb by limb and very, very carefully explain the minute details, the important minute detail, not every single detail, obviously. But so I think overall Potomac, the reason Potomac didn't win my vote was because I felt overall their arguments were a little bit vaguer than Burgeon. Like they tried to sort of use broad scope like generalizations more. And for me, I frown upon generalizations because like the generalizations, I think if you want to prove something in court, you gotta use specifics, not just generalizations. So I think Potomac did that more. And for example, like retaliation, and then Virgin was very specific about the war. It's Coral War only, and I was like, okay, that's very specific. And then I think Potomac was saying something like in contrast, they were saying, peacekeeping. Sure, you can say Sudan pulled it out, but so that's why you can't not expect Japan to peacekeeping. But why specifically Japan has to do the peacekeeping? That's the question. Like this, it's good for troops are good for peacekeeping. It's a generalization. But for me, to add on to that argument, you have to say, okay, we can, out of all the countries in the world, we only pick Japan to be the best peacekeeper because this job is Japan's only and Japan alone. You have to prove that. If you prove that, that's like your golden ticket to a win. So unfortunately, like when you say Japan, like for example, when Potomac said Japan's good for peacekeeping, I'm like, okay, you didn't prove why Japan is the one for the job, like the best one for a job. Like irreplaceable. Like you didn't prove that. Like it's too general. So that's why like I took like 3 pages of notes. I'm not going to go over every single one, but I'm just saying these are the sort of things I was looking for, and these are just some specific examples that I pulled out, and that's why Burgeon won my vote in this round. So any questions?
Okay, then I'll go ahead and go real quick. Sorry, and you have to excuse me after I give my RFD. I have to leave the round. I have to take care of my 2 kids. So I just wanted to apologize about that in advance. I do want to say thank you, Virgin, for giving me something different to think about a little bit this round. And I do want to say congratulations to you guys for getting this far. So I'll keep this brief and I'll try to keep this as much as possible. So for me, I kind of like gave in one place for my vote. We'll go ahead and start on the conflow is a taxation portion of it. I kind of on the impact level, I believe that global recession is a larger impact than putting into poverty on that. And that's where I ended up on that one. For that. Now onto the pro, I felt like kind of like when you ended up on Coral Islands, I kind of felt like that was a little bit reaching. Like I understand what you're trying to say and I understand the narrative, but I feel like price spikes are currently going on because war is already going on, but reaching for the islands, I'm not sure, that's kind of somewhat of a stretch. I also felt like the con did a really good job about the with their evidence and extending their evidence and talking figuring out the claims, which is like what the debate ended up coming down to. And so because I didn't really buy the Coral Island argument and I bought it with the taxation and I gave the con the weighing on that, I gave the con in the case and the con got my vote. So like with everything, I have my flow on the ballot link. If you have any questions, feel free to email me now. Now, if you excuse me, I do have to take my 2 kids. But thank you, Zeke and Jingjing, for judging with me and staying in there. And congratulations, you guys. Stick with it. You know, I did for a very long time. So once you get bitten by a bug, it's hard to let go. All right. Take care, guys. Have a good night and congratulations.
Thank you so much for judging. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh wait.
This is yeah, I'll go real quick so y'all can get out of here. I know you've been, doing this for a while. I negate from the affirmative. I have no idea what the solvency is, so I give you guys the benefit of the doubt and I call for the link evidence to see if it's like actually persuasive and says what you're saying. I call for the you give me the Weisinger evidence as the solvency. The Weisinger evidence is absolutely atrocious. It A, doesn't talk about Article 9 at all, and B, it concedes the defense that the negative reads about and that the negative backlines and extends about war is an incentive for like no intervention over the Coral Islands. At that point, if I give you the benefit of the doubt and I buy your link, which I don't, it doesn't matter because it still concedes the defense that Arav read in rebuttal and it's extended pretty cleanly. I don't think it's like responded to well. At that point, even if I like don't buy the defense, which I do, I don't understand why, if you're telling me Japan claims the islands, why is intervention not defensive already? That's the Williams uniqueness you guys read. So I don't like on double both ways. I don't understand what the solvency is. Even if I don't want to look there, I go to the weighing. The scope weighing is dropped from the neg. So if I buy one scenario from the affirmative at the Corellas, I pull the trigger on solvency for overall destabilization. The weighing I get in response to the affirmative is twofold. A, theirs also goes global. I have no idea why. There's like your impact scenario is about Ukraine, but you read it as an independent, like other recession for most of the rounds. So I don't understand what the solvency is. B, it's overtime in summary, and C, it is completely unwarranted. And for both teams, none of y'all's weighing is comparative. That's just something to work on. But overall, this is literally like the best round I've judged all or like seen all weekend. And I've like, they made me judge every single round. So great work from everybody. And you all have like super bright futures in this activity.
All right. Thank you all so much. Thank you. Yeah. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.